everybody. Welcome to Chat and Community. Before we begin, before I introduce the topic, I want to do a quick acknowledgement to the country. So today we are meeting on the lands of the Kulin Nation. Munnazza and I are both in the southeastern suburbs, towards the east more. And I pay my respect to the elders past, present, and emerging. And if any of the elders from other communities are listening, we pay our respects to them as well. So, Munnazza, thank you for joining in. We are going to be talking about something very exciting today. I think it's exciting. I hope you feel the same way about the topic. And tomorrow is such a well celebrated day, let's call it, globally, where we talk about love. So today we are going to do a little bit of a tangent on that subject. And instead of talking about the romantic love, we might talk about self-love. How about that? What an amazing concept that is. So, Munnazza, I think we have to further contextualize this topic because self-love is such a huge topic. I think what we want to really take a deep dive is into looking at what self-love can look like or what it may mean to women in the diaspora, in the South Asian community. So let's start with how you understand. And Munnazza, why don't you introduce yourself? I think people have seen me on a couple of shows, so they know a little bit about me, but would you start with introducing yourself and let's just take a deep dive into what self-love means to Pakistani and Indian and Sri Lankan and Bangladeshi women, and how can we even tackle this topic?
Thanks for having me, Naureen. And I'm missing Salia a whole lot. It would have been wonderful to have her with us as well. Yeah, but thanks for having me. Thanks for introducing me. And I think my introduction is pretty much what you've said already. You know, all women of color in this respect, especially self-love, something that we are, I think, all highly deficient in. And especially those of us who have grown in our own countries of origin. Because the next generation, our kids and girls who are born and brought up here, they are far more savvy because of the atmosphere around and because they have different social signals around them. Whereas us, I think by virtue of, people straight away like to just blame it on the family and blame it on the, your immediate circle or whatever. But I feel like, yes, in some cases, you might have unfortunately heard it from your near and dear ones, but I feel that subcontinental societal culture as a whole, it sends you all the wrong signals where self-love is concerned. Although, let me disclaimer straight up on the top of it is that I am a person who's extremely proud of my roots, love where I'm from, and take it with me every single day of my life wherever I go. But I feel if you truly love your identity, and then you have to be able to see the right as well as the wrong of it, and that's the only way we are going to make any progress. So just in that society, yes, we are a very hospitable culture, a loving culture, and we are taught to be giving and everything, and especially women of the culture, by virtue of religion, culture, the societal subliminal messages, the women are told that a good woman is a woman who takes care of everyone. A good woman is a woman who sacrifices herself for everyone. A good woman is a woman who thinks of herself last, if at all. If she doesn't think of herself, oh, she's a great woman. So that is you can't deny it, that it's very much there. It has been there for generations and it will be there for generations. It's changing, but it will take time. So in that background, self-love is something that is not only not encouraged, it is seen as a selfish act. It's almost like a woman who dares to have any kind of self-care opinion or uh, any sense of identity is instantly branded as a Thais woman, a fast one, so not a good
Because we're
woman
moving away from that good woman definition, right?
from the
Yeah,
good
we're
woman definition as such. And like for me, like the definition of self-love, I think the easy definition, which in my mind is to thine own self be true. That is the definition of self-love, whether you're a woman, you're a man, or any gender. Like the definition of self-love is to thine own self be true. If you are the same person inside and out, if what you think, what you say, and what you feel is in alignment, that is self-love, because you're letting yourself breathe. You have given yourself the freedom to be yourself. And that is the one thing most denied to women in subcontinent.
Munnazza, I think absolutely spot on. I agree with every word that you have said. I mean, we see our moms, we see our grandmothers growing up, right? So in our generation, Munnazza, you and I think
Yeah,
we're probably
yeah,
sort of like the
yeah. In the
70s.
middle, yeah.
In the middle, yes.
Yeah.
We've only seen the giving mothers, right?
Yes.
We have emulated those
Giving and
norms
self-sacrificing.
and
Lots of
self-sacrifice,
sacrifice. Yeah.
and uh, the I don't want to call it brainwashing, but the conditioning, that
Yeah.
is passed on to
Yeah. The
the daughter.
societal conditioning. Yeah. Yeah.
Societal, but familial as well, right? And the
Yeah. As well.
family is
Both.
part of the
Both.
society.
Totally.
So I almost feel, I don't know if you felt it as well, that when I started to understand this concept of self-love, it came quite late in my life, and I would say in my
Thank
late
you.
30s.
Yeah. Mm.
And I almost started to question myself whether I am doing the right thing. Do I deserve self-care? And then feel guilty about caring for myself.
Yeah.
So let's
Totally.
talk a little bit about the emotional toll that self-love has once you start practicing it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because of that conditioning, we have
Yeah.
to
Totally.
uncondition ourselves, decondition.
Totally. And I think that's why it is so important to talk about it, because the more you keep it hush hush, that's my other gripe against our subcontinental culture, is it's a culture of keeping everything quiet, secretive, on the sly. So don't talk about it. You may be dying, but don't talk about it. Die in silence. So that's the problem. So unless and until we accept these issues and bring them to the forefront, there is no chance that all of these misogyny and the issues related will ever be solved. So like you said, like as soon in that background that we discussed, when a woman by whichever accident discovers the need for self-love, or the like when she has the audacity to think that she too deserves some love for herself, like so that before anybody else can judge her, she judges herself. It's sad
Exactly.
but
We
true.
are harshest judges.
Yeah, yeah. We are our harshest critic. We judge ourselves first and foremost. The things that, and I've been through a lot of things in life, and at one point in my life, and I was told that, like, by I've been through counseling at one point in time, and my counselor at that point in time, she was like, we were having this long discussion. She said, just think about what you are ready to allow everyone else in your life, even like the people who might have harmed you. And then you are not even ready to allow yourself this much empathy. So that is what it is. Because of that conditioning, we have almost like no empathy for ourselves. We have empathy for everyone else. So when we start practicing self-love, we instantly judge ourselves. We're like, this is not right. I'm not being a good person here. And maybe this time that I'm taking for myself, I could be doing something for my child, or maybe I could be doing something for the house. I could do some cleaning. I could be doing something else. I'm wasting my time. So that is the dialogue in the background that's happening, even when you sort of dare to take some time for yourself.
And when
And
you
also, like, I would like to point out another kind of thing, like, there's only, you don't just harm yourself by doing something, sometimes, like, there's two kinds of harm by action and harm by inaction. So
Yeah.
another very important thing is that because we have that conditioning that we have to comply to everyone's expectations and requirements and everything, we allow ourselves to be in toxic situations and around toxic people because
Wow.
their happiness comes first, their expectation comes first, and this is not just societal and familial, extends to friendships as well, extends to colleagues as well. In any situation, because of our conditioning and our background, we are like taking the back seat.
Yeah.
We don't
Exactly.
assert ourselves enough. So that's
Do you
another way. Yeah.
do you think that this attitude or this conditioning has impacts in our lives outside of our homes as well, in our
Oh,
professions, right?
100%, like 100%. I'll tell you, like, normally, in our culture, especially, the relationship between daughter-in-law, mother-in-law does not bring the nicest of memories to people. But honestly, there was this point in my life that, and I always give credit to my mom-in-law. Like, I remember initially, because I came from, because all the really good families in Pakistan, that's how you're brought up. Like, you care for everyone before you care for yourself, right?
Bilkul.
So,
Right.
and anything she would ask, and I was like, Mama, jo aapki marzi, haan, jo, whatever you want, Mama. Yeah, that's fine. That's it. And one day she just sat me down and she's like, Munazza, ek young ladki ke thode to nakhre hone chahiye. So it's like,
Spoil yourself a little bit. Yes, yes. What a wonderful, what an empowered woman she was. She is. I'm
gorgeous
not.
woman, highly educated. Again, education makes a lot of difference. So, like, she always, like, I'll say, like, apart from my, and I have come from a very, very supportive and good family. Like, so in my case, it wasn't familial as much as it was societal conditioning. It was very much there. So, but that is how it is. Like, you are literally denying yourself is the norm.
And then we take those
To like,
conditioned
at work
learnings
also.
to add
Yeah.
to work.
So
Exactly.
when I went to work initially, and I'm just like, whatever, like, again, same thing. Like, I'll be the last one in the queue, I'll let everyone do it first, and then everything. And then, but then your work speaks for yourself. And
Yeah.
then gradually I realized that, all these people, they're not saying things to me just because initially that is the level of our conditioning, that initially when I got a huge response, I was like, oh, they're just being nice to me because I'm new. Honestly, like,
Wow.
that was my instant reaction, that, maybe they're just saying my work is great because, like, I'm the new person in the office.
Hmm.
And then literally, again, like, my mother-in-law, my boss sat me down and he's like, I'm not a person who is easily pleased, I'm not a person who praises people without reason. Take credit for your work.
Great.
So that is how the
Yeah.
extent and the level of that subconscious denying
Self-effacing.
ourselves. And and this
Yeah.
is like, I'm from educated, like I
Yes.
said, totally supportive and
Empowered
everything, but
upbringing.
the societal conditioning sticks with you.
So, Manasa, I think what we're almost saying is that self-love is critical, right?
It is.
We must practice
It's
it.
a survival thing, honestly.
Yes. And look, one of my colleagues uses this analogy, and I'm happy to share it with everyone.
Mhm.
I think whoever is listening to us right now or will listen to
I think there
us
was a
in the
question as
recording.
well. I just saw it there, but
Yes,
it
we'll get
just,
back
yeah,
to that. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
We we when we travel and when we're sitting on an airplane, there's all these safety um, uh, messages that are passed on to us, and one of the message is that if the oxygen masks must be used, put the oxygen mask on yourself first
Yes,
and
yeah,
then care for someone else.
yeah,
And that is such a wonderful analogy. If we are not looking after ourselves, we will
yeah,
exhaust ourselves. We will run
100%.
out of that capacity
Mm.
to help others.
Yeah,
And that's what burnout looks like, or mental health issues start appearing later
yeah.
in life for women. And even the stress on the body, I have seen
Mhm.
women who will in their younger ages even will start to develop knee problems. Pakistan mein to knee problem is like every woman has a knee. And I almost feel like it's because they've carried that burden
Mm.
to
Yeah.
an extent where an autoimmune response starts to appear in their bodies.
Yeah, at many levels. And again, I haven't practiced for the longest time, so I should not be opining on that. But just like as a layperson, I'll say that it affects our bodies on multiple levels. Like psychosomatic disorders are very much a thing. And although like people still hesitate to call psychology a science, but
Yeah.
like we have scientific evidence to back that your thoughts influence your whole being in every possible way. So on physical, mental, and overall well-being, um, you know um, it affects you on all possible levels. What you think of yourself, what's your self-esteem like, what's the self-talk, because like psychology is highly in the present day and time or a favor of the concept that it's your thoughts that determine everything else. It's like in the present day it's thoughts first, like. And so the story we tell ourselves, the self-talk that we have, it pretty much dictates our life. No matter whoever is telling you whatever, it's the talk that you have with yourself that is most important. So that is how
What's going
important
on up
self-love
here
is.
that no one
Yes,
else can hear? Yes.
that is most important. So self-love is actually going to determine your course of life. Like when you don't have that, it's very easy for others to sway you, to use you, and just not be beneficial to yourself, basically.
Let's get to the questions. So, Chris is asking if we want to isolate from a toxic parent for our mental peace, can that
Mm.
also be regarded as self love? And I think we're getting into that space of talking about what does self love
Yeah,
practically look like?
and
What
yeah, totally.
actions?
Yeah. And that's 100%, like you are allowed, and that's the thing, you are. And I would highly encourage that everybody should take mindfulness exercises, and they are amazing at starting a self conversation, being in the moment and talking to yourself. And once you go down that path, then you choose your message and you talk to yourself, and you can tell you that it is 100% all right to remove yourself from any situation or person, regardless of your relationship, friendship, work related importance of that person. If it is toxic for you, remove yourself from that toxicity. Because if you don't have peace of mind, if you don't have that positive self talk going within your head, your life is not going to be at peace, and you're not going to be happy. Happiness does not come from outside. It does not come from buying designer stuff. Happiness is an inside job.
Chris had another excellent question. She wants to know. They want to know if there is a difference, or how can we differentiate between self love and narcissism, and is there a thin line between the two?
Yeah, there is a thin line, and sometimes there's no line, Chris, actually, because like we say, a healthy dose of narcissism is good for you. Like, honestly, like you should be a little, and that's what we are talking about, that in general society has like extended it to the to taken it to the point where anything that you do for your own benefit will straight away be labeled as narcissism. No, a little bit of a healthy dose of narcissism is very important for everyone, and as long as it's limited to yourself and it's just building up your own self-esteem, as long it's not harming anybody else. So don't be scared to be labeled a bit narcissistic or whatever, because all of us, we have that inbuilt system that tells us when we are crossing the line.
Yeah.
I mean, we may choose to ignore it, but we know when we have done wrong by ourselves or somebody. We can always tell.
What I understand narcissism to be is that it's a pathological, so psychological problem. So
Yeah,
narcissists
but the term
probably
is
have a
used very
spectrum.
loosely. Yeah.
It is,
So it's
yes.
a spectrum, but the term is used very loosely. It's like any person nowadays, and that's what we do. We take actual clinical psychological terms and we start using them for everyday people. It's like anybody who wants to keep the house clean, we say OCD. So
Yeah.
it doesn't
Yeah.
work like that. And
No.
anybody who has any positive image of themselves or anything is like, oh, narcissist. No, that's not how it works. It's just that people have taken it's the same thing as people diagnosing themselves on Zoom these days. I mean, what are the doctors for then? So let's not use labels loosely, and
Yeah.
I
Language.
genuinely, yeah, mind your language.
Mind your
Like,
language.
seriously, mind your language.
Okay, thank you for this example, Naureen. I've struggled with this so much. Should I put the oxygen mask on my kids first or myself? I now understand that I should be alive to look after them. Exactly. Great example. Thank you. Salam to both of you. And I want to, I guess, pass on the thanks to my colleague who used this analogy, and she uses it often, even, it applies to a lot of situations.
Yeah,
It's a good advice to pass on to our younger generation as well.
totally.
and
Totally.
and I think it's a really good segue into, do we see our daughters doing self-love a little bit better than we have done? Do you think that the next generation will carry this flag forward?
Yeah, that's true, Noreen. I think the short answer to that is yes. And another good analogy, which I always use a lot, is that you can't pour from an empty cup.
Perfect.
So,
Yes. Wonderful.
so you can't pass
give
on to others what you
empathy.
don't have yourself. If you don't have love, if you don't have empathy, if you don't have understanding, you cannot give it to anybody. Not your children, not your friends, not your family, not anybody. So just remember that you've got to have that strength inside you to pass it on, that feeling inside you to pass it on. So yes, I think, and I think our generation, I may be a bit biased, but I think our generation has done well in that respect, because we are the transition generation. Before, these things were largely understood, and to now where people like the younger generation, where they have actually gone to the other extreme maybe. So I think we have done a good job of admitting where we were wrong and giving our children that space to grow in. And I think it has done wonders.
I watched Q&A on Thursday, and one of the phrases that got used, I really love it. I've heard it before, and I'll use it here. It is about the Gen Z practicing "you be you" really
Yeah.
well.
Yeah. Totally.
And Chris has another excellent question. Thank you, Chris. I think I should give you an acknowledgement that you're one of our regular listeners. She's asking about whether the women who don't practice self-love, what do they need from their surroundings? What do they need from their the society? Is it apathy, empathy, or sympathy?
I think a bit of everything, but I think first and foremost, they need to give themselves the permission. They need to understand that it's all right to look after yourself. That it's
Isn't
not.
it almost like a switch that you have to turn on in your brain, right? It's
I
almost like
wish
you have to come to that realization.
I wish, Noreen, there was an actual switch, but that's the sad thing. Like for most of us, like I'm sitting here talking to you about it today, but I think for most part of my life, even coming from, like I said, all the privileges in my life, I'm not at all denying all the positives that, like, I totally come from a position of privilege. Yet, for most part of my life, it did not dawn upon me. So, as much as we can say that, yes, we would like there to be a switch, but that switch, there is no instant switch. It normally, you take it to a point where you can't take it anymore, sort of a thing. And then, or either that or some kind of emotional or situational or other trigger makes you change your thought process. So, and the thing is that, and I think what I would like it, that instead for waiting for that trigger factor to kick in or happen to a person, if we could have regular conversations about it, if we could put it out in the open, that would be a much better way for women to realize that, yes, it's a necessity. We are totally allowed to have time for ourselves. Not only just allowed, it's imperative. And like I said, like same analogies, you can't pour from an empty cup, and you can't save somebody else, like you said, until you save yourself. So these, I think, there need to be more and more of these conversations, and they need to be out there.
Normalized.
Yes, normalized. Yeah.
Right. So, Munnazza, what do you do for self-love? What does self-love practically look like? What is it that excites you, that gives you that energy, and how do you calibrate yourself?
Yeah, like because like I've been both sides of the divide, so I think I can talk about it. I'll give you a little example. It's like I've been living where I live for the last 15 years, and but like I said, like the situation in my life has changed only for the last like 5 or 6 years, so I have more me time since then. And I think a bit of it is COVID as well, but like only for the last few years have I actually, because I'm a big nature buff, but those 10 years of living here, I had not, it's not like I was still the nature buff, but because I was so engrossed in looking after others and others' needs and issues and things and stuff in my life, I had never realized I live in beautiful surroundings. I have so many species of birds around me, this or that, and so now it was like almost a mixed emotion, like a happy sad realization when I realized that I've missed this for 10 years, but then hey, I'm enjoying it now. So even something as small as that. So, and I'm a person of many interests. Like I love art, I love poetry, I love reading, love nature, love music. So but I don't remember many times that I took out for myself before. And now that I am on this journey to allow myself to be myself, thine own self be true, and me doing me. So now I'm doing all those things. I mean, I'm still doing everything else. I keep saying my first identity in life is being a mom of four. That is like, and loving that, loving all the cooking and the mom's taxi, and still my first priority. But I am looking after myself as well.
Look, Manaza, I think you've raised a really interesting point. One is that we need to realize what are the quick wins for us, right? Nature is around us. Let's appreciate it.
Yeah.
But even when, I'm a soccer mom too, have been.
Yeah.
Even listening to music while we're going to pick up our kids, it just de-stresses you.
Yeah.
It's those small things that we may not realize give us so much relaxation, but we forget to do them because it hasn't formed part of our habit. So I think self-love is a habit. And we have, listening to podcasts. So when I used to commute, I don't have to commute anymore, which is an amazing outcome of the pandemic. I used to listen to podcasts. But what I mean, I enjoyed the learning aspect of it, but it was also causing me stress because I was becoming aware of all these issues that exist in the world. So I guess there's a very fine balance that you have to create in what you think is a self-love act, but it may actually be causing you a little bit of stress. So rethink and reconfigure and sort of evaluate what actually gives you that sense of contentment and pleasure and decluttering of the mind.
Yeah, so and totally, and that's why, like, at the sound of at the cost of sounding repetitive, I'll say it again. That's why I keep saying it. Give yourself permission, because like for me, I realized that all of this was all around me all along, right? But I had not given myself permission to have me time.
Allow
it was always there. I did not allow myself. And same when I went back to studies. So like I said, for me that was amazing. Like studying psychology is hardly a relaxing thing. But yeah, it was great. It gave me a huge sense of achievement. It was a big thing in reclaiming my self-esteem.
Excellent.
So we cannot define what self-love. That's why I said, to thine own self be true. Self-love is different for different people. It is whatever brings you peace, whatever lets you be yourself, whatever brings what you feel, what you say, what you do in alignment.
um I had a thought that has escaped me,
Sorry.
but we don't have to. No, that's okay. I wanted to address one of the questions that popped up. What is the concept of Valentine's Day in Islam? But before we get into that, I think what I wanted to sort of say is that yes, tomorrow is Valentine's Day. And yes, we are talking about love in that reference, but we can talk about love on any day of the year, and we can celebrate love on any day of the year. Obvious,
Yeah.
we all know that this Valentine's Day is not something that has come from the Islamic culture,
Mhm.
but we can take the goodness out of it, which is about loving yourself, loving others, expressing your love for the loved one. I mean, how often do we actually consciously take the effort to bring flowers for our
Yeah. Yeah.
special people in our lives? So why not? I mean, I am not an opponent to it, but I am a proponent of having a celebration of love on every day of the year,
Yeah.
right? So
Totally.
did you have anything to add or to say, to comment on about the religious aspect? I didn't really want to take this conversation into the religious space
Mm.
because it's such a personal relationship that we have with God or
Yeah.
whatever we believe in.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
All I'll say to that point, Noreen, is that, like in my very humble opinion, is that faith, or lack of it, whatever belief system you believe in, that is entirely between that person. And like, I'll just say, like, it is their private business. It has nothing to do with anybody else. So I don't think we should be questioning anybody's belief system or faith or anything at all. And yeah, so who am I to comment on any of that?
What another thing is that I embrace. I have lived in many parts of the world,
Hmm.
and I embrace the positive aspects of that culture. I try to emulate those practices. So I just love the idea of celebrating love.
Yeah, I celebrate like everything. I believe, like, as like on a personal, that was like a general question, so I gave that answer. But like, if you say on a personal level, like, I celebrate everything, every occasion, everything, because I do not believe, like, and that's again very personal opinion. I'm no religious scholar. I have, like, in no capacity to give any expert opinions, but like, my thinking on that is that I do not think that Islam or any other religion for that matter is so fragile that it needs our protecting. It has survived centuries, it will survive centuries. We don't need to stand up for every issue with daggers drawn and everything, that, oh, we are here to protect. It doesn't need it. We need protection.
Hmm.
Islam will be fine. It has been fine. God has, like, if you're talking about Islam in per se, as a Muslim, I can say what I believe in, that if God has taken it upon himself to protect us, who are we? Like, are we in doubting that he can't do it? We'll do it for him.
Hmm.
So I totally do not feel like that we are in the capacity to talk about that. And in general, any act of love, kindness, any celebration that we can be part of, we should totally celebrate it, because if there's one thing that I find common in all belief systems, it is that you be a good human. Be
Hmm.
good to other humans. Do no harm. So why not celebrate? Why not bring joy to others? Yeah.
So I think how are we going with time? We'll go to the question, and then I sort of wanted to wrap up the conversation with another practical piece of discussion. So, Munnazza, what is the importance of personal space with regards to self love? And if someone is in a relationship, how do you emphasize the importance of personal space to your partner?
Yeah, I think, like, again, my opinion, it is not just important, it's essential. Because and again, I see this pattern in a lot of, again, like, I'm not criticizing anyone, anything, but it's just a personal observation that there's a lot of paranoia and a lot of spy work, um, between spouses, especially, and in the subcontinental marriages, there's always this search for like what's going on in their life and everything, and that sort of a thing. I think, like, if you really can't trust a person that much, you should seriously not be with them. And if you are with a person, if you trust them, give them that space. You do not need to be in each other's space all the time, and you should not always be making the other person uncomfortable by being paranoid about their whereabouts or their life, or putting restrictions on them as to who they should or should not be meeting, or what they should or should not be doing. Like, being in love does not mean becoming each other's clone. You can totally have your own lives.
So, Munnazza, when I got married, I believed that I was going to have a Bollywood marriage, right? I was going to wear a sari and I was going to go to Switzerland and sing in the mountains. And that vision kind of came a little bit crashing down. The other concept that I had was of a Venn diagram, right? So I thought that marriage, the Venn diagram in a marriage needs to look like this, where the overlap is maximum possible, right?
Yes.
But over the
and
course
it's a Venn where the overlap is that much, yes.
But what I've realized is it's actually a bit like this, there's very little where you love or have similar passions.
Yeah.
And then allowing both the people who make that marriage have that space to continue to explore who they want to become and still carry on as a team. We're still going to be partners, but if you enjoy listening to music and I enjoy hiking, we can do both those things and still come back and share, this is what happened today. And so I think there's a little bit of a communication exchange that needs to happen, and a little bit of that, exactly what you said, that trusting and that understanding of each other that needs to happen before you reach that equilibrium. This is going to be my space, and wherever we do things together, let's do them with full passion and full enthusiasm.
Yeah, and like 100%. And like you said, like, you didn't have a Bollywood marriage. I had like a totally how I got selected for marriage and how I had my marriage. It was like totally Bollywood. It was Shah Rukh Khan multiplied by 1,000. But like, and so when I hear a lot of women, having a whinge about not finding love, not being loved, and I feel it's very important for someone like me to come out and say that love in and of itself is not enough. Because any person's love is only as good or bad as that person themselves. Finding love is not the goal. Finding a good human should be the goal.
Beautiful.
Because if you're with a good human, you will work it out. If it's somebody that you love and respect as a human, not just because they are stalking you. And we are not taught that as young girls. We think, oh, well, anybody who stalks you enough because Shah Rukh Khan was doing it, Salman Khan was doing it, that person loves you. No, he's a stalker. He's a psychopath. Beware, run away. So we are not taught that. And that's why we don't see the red flags. We think that's love. If I could do one thing, I would definitely change the definition of love in all of social media, so girls know what love should look like. Stalking is not love.
The hormonal love is not love.
No. So love is not, it's how loosely it's used. And again, like, it's very cliched, but like, if you really want to understand love, look at the love of a mother there are some totally messed up moms, but like, generally speaking, truly selfless, when you are happy for the object of your love's happiness, even if they are insulting you or they are sometimes doing exact opposite of what you would like them to do, you still love your child. That is love. So, and obviously it's difficult to love anybody else like that, but at least try to emulate that.
I remember the meme when you were talking about mother's love for their child, and if I remember correctly, it said love is when you give the last slice of your pizza away to your child. It's completely, about the little person in your life, and that's
Yeah.
what mothers have been doing for
Yeah.
centuries.
Yeah.
So, Munnazza, how do you create, like, let's say we are talking to an audience where a woman has realized that she hasn't been practicing self-love, and from tomorrow she would like to try it. What are some of the practical tips we can pass on? How do you make time when you have, all these other responsibilities? How do you prioritize
So
self-love?
yeah, and again, you're 100% right, Noreen. So because obviously, when you haven't been doing it for the longest time, it is not going to come automatically to you. Like even if you decide one fine day, okay, from tomorrow I'm going to practice self love. For a lot of people, they don't even know what self love might look like.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
then secondly, even if you sort of so I think if we could just do some dot points. So yeah, so what it looks like is being yourself, to thine own self be true, be who you are, do the things you enjoy. It can be anything on earth. The definition varies depending on the sort of person you are, but that is self love, that do something that makes you more satisfied, peaceful, happy, content as a person in any way possible. So that is what your self love is. And then how to sort of train yourself. So I think I'm a big one for making lists. So, because like if nothing else, you can eyeball it. It's right there. You can have a look at it every day. So just like make a list of what makes me happy, what will make me more satisfied in life, what will bring me peace. Make a list of all those things, have those lists up there, and then if you want to go one step further from your list, choose your top 10 points, and maybe one step at a time, one point at a time. um, Even if you have 5 minutes in the day, do one of those things. Start small. And it's very important. The importance of baby steps cannot be emphasized enough. There's a reason why babies take baby steps first and not start running straight away. Nature has a way of making it easy for us. So if you just think that, oh, I have to do the entire staircase in the first day, nobody will do it. So just concentrate on that first step, one thing at a time, one baby step, one self love
Sure.
item every day, and then you build it up. And it automatically, when you do one, and I know this from personal experience as well, that when you're on the path through rebuilding yourself, every little achievement, every little positive, automatically it's like a positive feedback reaction. It brings you the confidence to do more. So
So yes, that concept of taking small actions is or baby steps, you use
yeah, yeah,
word, is really important. I'll give you an example of how I looked, or how I created little actions of self love. So, when the pandemic was setting in and we were just coming to a realization that this is long term, it's not something that's going to be over.
go away. Yeah,
And when we started sort of seeing ourselves on Zoom calls and on Teams meetings, and I realized that something that could bring me happiness was wearing lipstick.
yeah,
So right next to my laptop, I put 3 shades of lipsticks that I love. And every morning I would wear a shade. And I just realized it made me happy.
yeah.
It
We
was
love the red
really as
lipstick. All of
simple
us
as
love that red. It brings
it
us
wasn't
happiness as well.
right, exactly. And when I started feeling happy, I started smiling more. I was reflecting that glow of happiness, and I started getting comments that, Noreen, you look fresh, you look, so it's sort of like what is it called, the positive
Positive
reinforcement,
feedback reaction. Yeah, yeah,
right? So
yeah.
that's what the baby step will do for you. So it's a small
Yes,
action. Wearing perfume, nobody's going to
yes,
smell it on Zoom, but you can smell it yourself.
yeah.
Wearing
It's
nice clothes,
hundred
um,
percent.
and indulging yourself in maybe a foot spa every month, or a, facial, or something that you do solely for
For
your
yourself.
own
Yeah.
self.
Yeah, so
Wonderful.
also yeah, and you just make those lists. What will make me happy? What will bring me peace? what will make my life easier, and then choose the points from that. Like, honestly, it helps. Like, just if you have that in front of it, just eyeball it, just look at it, and it's sort of like psychologically, I feel it revs you up a
I
bit.
think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, one of my again, one of my colleagues who I really have deep chats with was
Mm.
saying that if and you sort of referred to it, something that makes your life easy. So, for example, if doing taxes will make your
Yeah.
life easy because now you don't have to think about it and it's crossed off your list, then
Yes.
doing taxes can be an
Can be
act of
self
self
love.
love.
Yes,
But it's
totally.
about that attitude, right? You have to talk yourself into thinking that this is something that I'm doing for myself, rather than thinking, okay, oh, this is such a stressful thing. I need to sort of just, sit down and it's going to take half an hour or whatever.
Mm.
It's about changing that attitude or that projection onto
Mm.
the action that you're doing.
And
So I
another thing that has come to my
yeah,
mind when you're talking, when you were just mentioning the, taking time for yourself, maybe taking a spa, maybe doing that before the
yeah, yeah,
Texas thing, nobody will judge you on. But like when you take time for the spa or that manicure and everything, what will happen most likely is that the people around you, like your spouse, or the people in your family, and etc., they'll be judging you. They'll be straight away like, oh, really, are you doing that? Could you not do that, my thing, this thing, that thing first? Like, is it really
exactly.
important? Do you really need to do that? You look beautiful anyway. That's a common one. That's a very common one. So like, clever husbands do that. So uh, that will be there. But the thing is, how to respond to that. That's another thing that you should be taught, is that do not become confrontational when somebody does that. And so do not like turn around and be argumentative about it or confrontational about it. Offer them the understanding, your newfound understanding that you found yourself. Offer them that as well. It's like, you know
That's
what, uh, there's this new concept which
mm,
I have understood lately, and I would like to share it with you, and let's see what you think about it. So that can be sort of sort of, yeah, an
yeah,
opener for a good
yeah.
discussion. Yeah.
And I hope that the concept of self-love is not necessarily only applicable to women. We are talking
No,
about women
everyone.
because women are not good at practicing
Yeah.
self-love. It applies to every human, right?
uh,
From the point you become self-aware to the point you die. So if there are men listening to us, please love
uh,
yourself and continue to do that.
no, but like, again, I'll say that you can't but like, in my opinion, a lot of men have not much self-love either. They have
I do. Oh,
egos.
wow.
They have huge egos built by their surroundings, families,
Society.
whatever. Yeah, yeah, whatever. But egos is different to self love. They have egos, yes. Self love, no, because most men, their like journey is different, but they are in their own cycle. Like, first, they're under pressure to get good score, because like, again, education in that part of the it's changing again, but in our culture, education is not for learning. Education is to get a good job. So from the get go, you're under pressure to do well, so you get admission, like from primary, from KG, from kindergartens. Like, you are under pressure, so you get into a good primary school, then you're under pressure to get into a good high school, good uni, and then like
Get a good
as soon
job.
as you do that, get a good job, start making that much money. People have the audacity in our communities to actually, they're meeting you for the first time, and they're, what do you do, how much do you earn? Oh,
Oh,
okay. So imagine the pressure. So men are they're in their own kind of repetitive cycle, and they are under their own kind of pressures. And I don't think a lot of men, there are some men again who have become enlightened, and they're doing self-love. They're taking their bike rides, they're doing their photography, they're doing some hobbies. But by and large, not many men are indulging in self-love either, because like I said, like ego or authoritarianism, that's not self-love. So
what are the parting words of wisdom from Munnazza tonight? I think after that we will wrap it up, unless there are any pressing questions from our audience. But Munnazza, let's end this beautiful conversation where I have learned so much as well, on a positive and energetic note.
I think what again, like I'm still learning, but I think what I have learned is question yourself, allow yourself to change, welcome the change, even if it's awkward at first, even if it's frightening at first. I mean, you're not a tree. If you don't like where you are, just move.
Absolutely wonderful. Thank you so much, whoever was watching and joined us, and Chris and everyone else who sent in their questions. It's been a delight talking about self love. I hope we start and continue to practice this wonderful concept. And let's reconvene next year and see how we've what baby steps we have taken, Munnazza, you and I. And
I think we
maybe
should start making a list
we'll
of
be
our baby
love
steps.
gurus next year.
Now, thanks for
Sorry.
having me, Naureen. This was lovely chatting to you, and yeah, it's just so refreshing to have some real conversations.
Yes,
So
absolutely.
yeah.
Wonderful. Good night, everyone. And that's a wrap.